Hi, I'm Bill Conger, Curator of Collections and Exhibitions at Peoria Riverfront Museum. Please take a quick walk with me as we visit about 16 works that we have outdoors on our sculpture grounds. I'll tell you a little bit about their backgrounds and who gifted them to the museum. By Richard Hunt, Chicago sculptor, very renowned, who was really focused on natural occurrences and how those things affect matter. And this piece, Active Hybrid from 1984, is a welded bronze work. It's beautiful work. It's one of Peoria Riverfront Museum's most prized outdoor sculptures. You'll notice that there are forms in here that mimic ice and flames and rain and various natural patterns, which for a long time influenced Hunt's work. Zen Vision by Peoria sculptor, Bradley University professor Fisher Stoltz. And this piece was dedicated shortly after the Peoria Riverfront Museum in its current location on the riverfront of Peoria was built. Note the use of material here and the cosmic kind of nature of the movement, which inspired us to put this piece near the planetarium. This piece was donated by the friends of Jim Richardson and Judy Lee. One of our minimal artworks on the outdoor campus of Peoria Riverfront Museum. It is by Japanese-American artist Osamu Noguchi, Pylon Tall one. It's a beautiful piece of minimalism. Noguchi famously would interject industrial materials and organic materials to create new ways of seeing each. And in this work, which is dedicated to the memory of George and Norma Cotterman, we see positive and negative space kind of being reflected and interpolated near our planetarium. This work is one of the oldest works in Peoria Riverfront Museum's collection of outdoor sculpture. It was gifted to Lakeview Museum of Arts and Sciences in 1971 by Dr. and Mrs. Lester Knorr by an artist named Thomas Henderson. And this work is actually constructed of Corten steel. Corten is a phenomenal and very traditional now modern material that sculptors use for outdoor works. It's allowed to rust to a certain point, and then it stops rusting. This work will look exactly like this in 50 or 100 more years. Sphere 1, made in 1986, was donated to Lakeview Museum of Arts and Sciences in 2003. The artist's name is Eric Shaw. It's a wonderful sculpture that is positioned uniquely between our building and our sister building, the Caterpillar Visitor Center. The energy and dynamism within the piece is wonderfully symbolic of its placement. It's a wonderful work. We're proud to have it. It was donated in memory of the artist by his parents, Blossom and Jay Shaw, in 2003. Ruins 1 from legendary Peoria-based sculptor Nita Sunderland. This work was made in 1995, and it's a whimsical work of limestone and bronze that uses classical and modern forms. You might notice concepts like chess pieces and figurative imagery that merges for a very stationary and century location in front of Washington Street. This piece was donated to Lakeview Museum of Arts and Sciences in 1997 by George and Norma Cotterman. Peoria artist Nita Sunderland created Recumbent Night in 1975. It's a wonderfully crafted work out of Indiana limestone, and it merges architectural features with a kind of slight musical, almost figurative form that invites the viewer to recline with the sculpture. It's a magical work we're very proud of. This work was bequested to Lakeview Museum of Arts and Sciences by William Block. By John Raimondi. This beautiful piece is called Dian from 1985. Its stainless steel surface reflects everything around it, which is why we positioned this on our Washington Street entrance point. Around us is the city and reflected glass and the blue sky, which plays off of its dynamic surface, creating just a mesmerizing effect. This piece was gifted by Mel and Roz Regal. A new acquisition to the Peoria Riverfront Museum Permanent Collections Outdoor Sculpture Garden by Patricia Whalen Keck, who is a Peoria-based sculptor. This work is a bronze work called the Pedestrian. It's a mysterious and magical work that obviously shows the figure in mid-motion with this wonderful bird on her shoulder as she seemingly aimlessly, but also with some level of determination, moves forward to a place that the viewer cannot know. It's a wonderful piece. It's a newer work for the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and it was gifted to the museum in 2018 by Brenda and Henry Blackwell. Embryo Noir from 1969 is a wonderful example of mid-century sculpting, particularly in this case out of marble. It is by Antoine Poncet, who is a Swiss artist, and I particularly love the way this piece psychologically nestles the viewer. It also positions itself wonderfully low so the rest of the sculptures on the grounds can kind of rise and activate above and beyond it. It's a beautiful work, gifted by the Sara Lee Corporation. Gifted to Peoria Riverfront Museum by Harriet and Eugene Swager. This wonderful Barry Tinsley sculpture entitled Peoria Portal is a wonderful example of postmodern sculpture. Postmodernism famously would take elements of antiquity, such as columns and ruins, and integrate them with modern materials with a sleek design, thereby creating a new language for talking about materials and form. This work by Gary Slater, Dorado 7 from 1975. It is gifted to the museum by Mellon Roz Regal, and the most entrancing part of this work is the combination of materials here. The wonderfully patinaed green copper, which took years to achieve, coupled with the reflectivity of the stainless steel, create quite a spectacle and a feast for the eyes. The second work on the sculpture grounds by Barry Tinsley, Illinois-based sculptor, is called Delos from 1983. It was a museum purchase in 1985. We're very proud to have two sculptures on the grounds by Illinois-based sculptor Barry Tinsley. This vivid blue-green sculpture is a painted aluminum work by Bruce White. It's called Popup from 1985. Peoria is actually very lucky to have a number of Bruce White pieces. There's one not far from us in a roundabout, less than a block away, and there are also a number of works in Peoria Heights by Bruce White. We're proud to have Popup here. It was gifted to the museum in 1987 by Adelaide Cooley, who was a proponent of contemporary and modern and progressive art in Peoria in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Shortly after the opening of our facility on these grounds near the Illinois River, Peoria Riverfront Museum added this wonderful sculpture, which also doubles as a fountain by Harrison Gibbs. This piece was actually made and molded in 1937. The molds were put away and found by his daughter Ramona Gibbs, and the barn was able to be salvaged and cast with the help of the National Endowment of the Arts and Dr. William and Nancy Marshall. The artist Lynn Emery, Texas-based contemporary artist, made this work called Flowering. It's from 1997. It's produced out of polished aluminum, and it is one of the museum's kinetic works. It's the largest kinetic work that we own. Underneath of this, while the petal-like forms turn and move within the wind's energy, it produces a mesmerizing effect of light and reflectivity. It's a beautiful work that was gifted by Dave and Zan Ransberg. Dave Ransberg was a former board chair of Peoria Riverfront Museum. We would like to thank Visionary Society members and our membership at Peoria Riverfront Museum. Without your support, we would not be able to make content like this possible.